Hey, you. Hey, beloveds. Welcome to Keep Healing, where this is a space where we're going to discuss tons of topics that really focus on interpersonal growth, development, and healing in our minds and our bodies and our souls. Because a lot of us are walking around wounded when there is a life to be enjoyed. And so the process to healing requires us to look at things and talk about them and flesh them out and have sounding boards. And so this is a space where that can happen. Um, but most importantly, in this space, we really do focus on recovery from narcissistic abuse and really breaking down what that looks like, because understanding your experience and what happened to you is really a good way for you to get to a place where you can heal. Understanding who you were and how you showed up in that situation will help you going forward to not put yourself back in those situations, to forgive some of your choices, and to really put you in a space to really start designing and living the life you actually want to live. So we're going to explore some of that today. And the topic of today is, do narcissists have a preferred type? And this was a question that came off of my Quora platform, which now has 19 million views. So I feel like this is a topic people really do want some answering to. And the truth is, yes, they do have a preferred type. And they prefer insecure people with bleeding hearts and bad boundaries, who are either highly attractive, highly sexual, or they have abundant resources that they can wear and claim as their own to bolster their own self-image. They're basically looking for weak-willed people who are easy to influence and manipulate. And by weak-willed, I want to be very clear. This is not victim blaming, but a weak will is when you have your own self-preservation in one hand and you have someone else's need to be happy in the other hand, and you choose their happiness over the thing that would actually preserve your life and keep you in good, healthy spaces. You choose the other person's happiness. And it's a beautiful, selfless quality to have. But because it doesn't have boundaries on it, someone like a narcissist will see that, maybe even admire it in some senses, but will exploit it. So that's what a weak will means. But it's a person that they feel that they could have this influence over to be able to manipulate. My ex-narc would hit on any woman in the vicinity. He always swore that he had a type, but he really didn't. It didn't matter whether it was slim, fat, white, Asian, Hispanic, polka dot. Her race didn't matter, though he definitely preferred obese white women. His porn collection was all of that. And it's very opposite to obviously what I look like, which is fine. You can have taste and preference and whatever floats your boat. But it was portrayed as one thing, but in reality, it was really another thing. And he slept with a multitude of women behind my back that he would never, ever claim in public. And that is how he was able to get his supply of attention, to feed his very omnipresent ego. And so he cared nothing for those women. They all were ghosted at some point. Well, at least the ones that still wanted him, and the ones that didn't, they were in his search history. So he kind of like silently kind of stalked them a bit online to see what they were up to. And so the truth of the matter is, narcs will deal with whoever will give them supply. Seriously, like, it really isn't about the stature of a person. It's not about really anything but the attention. But yes, there's a preference to what they would prefer versus what sometimes they get. You know what I mean? But the truth of the matter is, that's usually like the go-to. They see that person who has this high attractiveness, or they have these high, these very valuable resources, and that becomes something that they pay attention to. You may start out very strong and confident as a person when you begin dealing with a narcissist, but over time, you'll find yourself compromising and over-compromising, right? Because a compromise means when we both walk away from the table, we may have given something, but we don't leave the table feeling robbed. With a narcissist, when you leave the table, you're still hungry, right? It's just a fact. You are still hungry. So they prefer people who they know they'll be able to gain that kind of favor with, that they can manipulate. So that's how, in the first stages of meeting them, they're very charming, right? They seem easygoing. They're very charming. They're very personable. They're very interested in you and what you do and and they're very good listeners in the beginning. But what we're not paying attention to is those beginning conversations are being recorded in their brains. And there is a thing happening where how they're going to use that futuristically to set the stage with you to get what they need in the form of manipulation. So if you love poetry, they're going to speak to you about poetry. If you love skydiving, suddenly they're going to be experts in skydiving. If you're very family oriented, they're going to show you things that look like, I'm family oriented too. They're basically going to mirror whatever you put out and serve it back to you so that you'll see yourself in them, so that you'll see those qualities that feel so authentic and organic to you. And it's like, oh my God, I met this person who we have so much in common. I'm comfortable. I'm interested. I'm feeling listened to. I'm feeling validated. I'm feeling attractive, right? And so all of these things, all of these devices that are set into place initially really are the first step of manipulation, because what it does is it gets you to drop your guard. You feel comfortable. You feel relaxed. You feel trusting. You feel like you finally met someone who can, who is that thing that you've been dreaming about all of your life. And that's because at some point you shared those pieces and that person put on the pieces to become the thing that you said you most desired. And it's kind of hard to turn that down, right? When something shows up and it's like, God, this is like everything I wanted. That's the hook. And once you're on that hook, right, what comes next is the devalue stage. That one is a doozy. So first you were idealized. You were great. You were beautiful. You were gorgeous. You were smart. You were energetic. You were innovative. You were interesting. You were on this pedestal, just exalted above the rest of the world. Like the whole world could burn. And as long as you were still there, like that would have been all right. But then the devalue stage shows up. And this is where it starts subtly. One comment that seems a little off kilter, that's slightly offensive, but also forgivable. For me, it was the first time he kind of implied that I was dumb. And immediately I was offended and immediately I addressed it. I was like, who you talking to like that? Because I know you're not talking to me like that. So I need you to correct that. And I didn't understand that was the precursor for more that was going to come. So I excused it away. He was having a bad moment, whatever the case may be. And then the more subtle kind of demeaning, demoralizing kind of put downs that you may not even be sure that it's a put down just yet. Here's an example. Girl, ooh, you looking good. Look at you in that dress, the way you wearing that dress. You are something else. Come over here, let me look at you. Take a little turn around. You see, now I'm all involved and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm doing my thing. And then the next thing would be, girl, you look good, but you're going to wear your hair like that? You see what just happened there? It went from a high, right, to an immediate low. Because now the person that has been validated, right, is now being invalidated. Just that quickly. It started out with a compliment and then some doubt was added. Now that's one of the more subtle examples. It can get vastly different really quickly, but it begins in such a way that you aren't even aware that you're being trained, you're being groomed to normalize these kind of criticisms, these kinds of critiques, so that the more and more they occur, the more normal they kind of seem. And initially they seem very harmless. It's like, oh, well, maybe my hair is out of place. Maybe I should put it up in a ponytail. Maybe. And that's the thing. It gets you to start doubting yourself. Right? And then the more comments that come, the more situations that arise, they're set in a way to unbalance you. Have you doubtful? Do I look okay? Okay, if I say this, he might react a certain way or she might react a certain way. So you start tailoring yourself and start censoring because you're being trained to learn to avoid those kinds of feedback, that kind of feedback. And it's not even something that you do consciously in the beginning. In the beginning, you're like, oh, this is a new person. I'm, still trying to figure this out, But you spend enough time, you start to figure out, oh, this isn't right. This doesn't feel good. This doesn't make me, this is putting me in conflict with myself. So it gets worse. More gradually as time passes, it does get worse. To the point where you've been called every name in the book. You're the dirtiest, nastiest, bleep, 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 blah, bleep, 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 bleep. And after enough of that, by the time you're done, your self-will, your self-esteem, and your ability to even discern your own self-preservation becomes a muddied mess. And so, yes, they have a preferred type. They prefer someone that they can take from a high-functioning place and bring them all the way down because it makes them feel powerful. If I crush a building, right, with my own hands, it makes me powerful. So it's important to understand that they do have a type. And the type is pretty much anybody that will give them the kind of attention they're looking for. So, don't fall for this, oh, this is my preference. No. Anyone in the vicinity who's willing to give audience, who has resources, and or is highly attractive or sexual is definitely on the top of a narcissist hit list. Because just by being attractive, you loan to them some validation. Just by being accomplished, your accomplishments loan to them some validation. If you have resources, they're again loan to them for validation, because when people see, we're very highly defined in this society by our relationships. And so you presenting as a very stable, possibly attractive, well-groomed, well-balanced person automatically lends that to your partner. And who would think you, a smart, well-rounded person, would be with somebody who was abusive and who was manipulative and cunning and calculating and, just destructive emotionally. So yeah, they have a type, and if you found yourself here looking for answers, chances are you're part of that type. But be well, just keep defining who you are, keep figuring out who you are and what you want. And understand, it's okay to be selfish. It is. When it comes to your own self-preservation, selfish is the right answer. And a lot of us haven't been taught that. A lot of us who suffer from codependency never learn to check in with our actual selves. And so a lot of how we feel and how we face the world and how we navigate has to do with how others feel about us. And so the beautiful part of that is you can kill that programming. You can stop that tape and you can learn a whole different set of tools that will really help you to just figure out who you are, what you want, and that you are deserving of love. And the one thing we shouldn't accept in our lives is abuse. But no one's blaming you for that. My goal is to help go through this journey and process so that more people are freed from that abusive space. And if I can change one person's life by helping to inform them, then that's all I needed. And I hope you guys be well, stay well. Pray for me. I'm going to pray for you. And we'll see you on the next set of questions. Have a good one. And keep healing. It's a process. Be patient.